What is up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Guarani Vision, the first ever podcast dedicated to Paraguayan football in English. As always, I'm Roberto Rojas, and joining me are my two great co-hosts, Federico Perez and Ralph Hanna. And guys, here we are. We're right towards the end of the month. Obviously, we have a lot of leagues about to be paused or ended in momentarily as we go straight into what it's going to be an interesting international break, or at least a big one for Paraguay, like I'd mentioned, with the Copa America, the Olympics happening. Obviously, a lot of these players are kind of trying to make their case for Danny Garnedo, and especially in the local league as well. There could be some names, especially as we get into what is going to be a really close contested race for the Apertura title, something that we haven't had in quite some time in any sort of league action in Paraguay. Obviously, the Copa Libertadores and the Sudamericana is also a case for not just of the Paraguayan teams, but also for the players that are playing abroad as well that could make their case to make a squad for the Olympics or the Copa America. So it's really crunch time, you would say. And I want to go to Fede on this one because here we are right at the end of the month. We got a couple days left, really, essentially until the start of June, and then we're going straight into the international break. But before we go into that, we need to say we don't have a champion yet. We do not have a champion in the Apertura, Fede. So that's kind of the one that all the group chats, social media. We've also seen obviously some, words from coaches as well, feeling a bit fed up because this race is really getting into us. It's getting into right into an expression that they always say in England, and I'm sure Ralph will like this kind of really Fergie time, really getting into squeaky bum time, because we're getting right into the end of it, three more games, and we still don't have a champion.
Hi, Roberto. Hi, Rob. Hi to everyone listening to Guarani Vision. It is pretty crazy, Roberto, to think that, we're so close to the end and we still have no idea who's going to take it, right? We don't know if it's going to be Libertad, if it's going to be Cerro Porteño, who has kind of an advantage right now as both teams are in the first spot. And then you have Olimpia, who's just not letting it go. And Olympia's winning games last minute, and they're doing a crazy campaign with very little, and to see Libertad have a meltdown in a very important part of the season, to see Cerro Porteño just killing it and killing it after each game, not getting tired, doing everything correctly from their head coach and everybody else. It looks like it's a beautiful ending to this Apertura. I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen in these next couple of weeks as we head to the off season, but it is going to be Copa America time also. So I am looking into everyone that's heading into their vacation, especially those players that have already ended their season. In Europe, I saw Julio Enciso was here in the country these last couple of days already in Paraguay, one of our stars, the Brighton player. And he was Libertad's game, actually, seeing his old neighbor, somebody he actually played with back in the days, Ruben Lescano doing it with two goals and an assist against Nacional, which was something that also Libertad needed to get back into that first spot and obviously fight it into the end with Cerro and Olimpia. Yeah, we got a title race, Roberto, and I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen here. We got to talk about the next three games because they are all going to be exciting.
Yeah, they definitely will. It's funny that you mentioned Enciso because obviously Ralph, this is obviously coming into a season that, obviously him playing a long season in a way, but also not a long season for him in respectively because obviously his injury, he's just coming back, and we saw a video of him playing cage football with not just some other kind of neighbors, but also with Enzo Gonzalez of Wolves, Matias Segovia as well, who had to spell in Belgium playing at Botafogo. It's kind of gotten a bit of debate because we kind of saw that last year as well, where he was playing on like some rough pitches after his season at Brighton, and he's done it again on a cage. Okay, maybe it's kind of more organized, but I don't know if Danny Garnedo is looking at that and thinking if he's going a bit insane, considering that this is someone that he's probably going to have to deal with for the next couple of weeks as kind of the star pillar for Paraguay in the Copa America.
Yeah, hi guys, hi everybody. Yeah, that's right. We saw Encisa's been on a tour, like Fede was saying. He was at the game. He was having dinner with Tacuara Cardoso the other day. He publishes a lot of his life on social media, so we're all very aware of it. And more recently, he's there playing playing like random five-a-side football to promote. He's basically built like some kind of complex near where he lives, and he's trying to promote that. But it's a dangerous game for somebody that's been injured so long to then play football. We don't know for how long it was actually going on, but the video clips are like 5 minutes, 6 minutes. So it's as much time as he's been getting with Brighton in the final stages, right? So it's let's just hope he's fine and he can be there. We're still waiting at this time for the squad for the not just the squad for the Copa America, but even the provisional for those 3 warm-up games. So let's just hope he's well for that, and soon he'll be in there. Enzo Gonzalez probably won't be there. We're thinking he's going to be used maybe for the Olympics, but we'll have to see where these guys end up and start doing some real training instead of playing five-a-side. But it's but just to touch on quickly the league race. I mean, it's been really good. So we've had 2 games since the last time we recorded. There's been 2 match days, and then we got another one coming up tomorrow ahead of what's going to be the Libertadores and Sudamericana. So it's really got to crunch time.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I mean, all eyes will be on Ipané and what's going on in those training sessions in a couple of weeks, but we still need to focus on what's going to happen in Para Uno, in Tujucua, and in Sajonia. I'm sorry, not in Sajonia, in Barrio Redo. So obviously, all eyes will be on those 3 places. And obviously, we'll get into now this kind of race because obviously, Fede, we're right into the swing of things at the minute because at the time of recording, Cerro Porteño do lead the way. Sorry, I think it's certainly something that for them, it's important for them to understand that Libertad did drop points and are in a position where they feel as if though they needed this. They're still on a good streak under Manolo. We saw Libertad slip up as well during the games as well. It was against Tacuarembó, the 0-0 draw. They were able to respond with a 5-0 win over Nacional, but Cedro keep winning games. They got the win against Guarani. They got the win against Sol America. And then you have Olimpia there because they got the win against Sportivo Luqueño. They got the win against Guarani. So the way that the points is right now, because Libertad would be kind of leading the way on goal difference, Cedro are above in the head-to-head, so that gives them the advantage. But Olimpia are right there, 4 points behind the 39 points of both these 2 teams with 35 points. So do we still see Olimpia in this kind of race? I mean, this is all, it kind of feels like what we saw with in the Premier League with Manchester City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. Kind of Olimpia is the Liverpool, and City and Arsenal are the Cedro and Libertad. So in a way, what I'm going at is they're kind of waiting for one of them to slip up because obviously they don't play Cedro already played Olimpia, and I think it's still waiting to see what happens. And Olimpia has to play Libertad. That's kind of the big game, but they still need to wait on what Cedro is going to do in order for them to get into the race. But it's been fun. It's been fun to see, and yeah, man, I don't know how about you, but I think we're going right to the final day for this one.
Yeah, as of me right now, I'm thinking more of what's going to happen with this Libertad side guy. We obviously got to focus on every team because each team is a different situation. If I have to pick one team out of the 3 right now, the team that I like the way that they're playing, they look like a championship team. And I said it before, it's clearly Cerro Porteño, but you don't know what's going to happen with them. With the very important game that's coming up in the Libertadores with the Colo Colo match. I mean, that's going to be something that's going to be on their heads before and after, no matter what happens. So they're going to have to deal with that game, and in between, they're fighting the tournament, but they've been having certain problems. They've been having difficulties inside the games, even in this game against Guarani. I thought that they weren't able to solve it at time. They needed that penalty kind of opened the way, even though you've had Cecilio Dominguez, who's been running hot. He is actually the top scorer right now in the Apertura. He kind of took that spot away these last couple of games, just getting hot and scoring for his team. A couple of goals coming from penalty, but making the difference always on the left side. And then you have Aguayo, who has we've stand him out all season long because he's really been the young kid, the new kid on the block in the Apertura, in the Paraguayan league, and especially in Cerro Porteño, which is a huge team, and that's not easy to do with such a young age. So it's somebody that's also drawing attention, even drawing away attention from the other stars. And then you have Diego Turin also having a special night like he had against Guarani. So it's nice to see everything coming together for Cerro Porteño, especially because they have this game against Colo Colo, which I think it's the game of the season for them. And I don't know the way it's going to end up right now, Roberto, because you got Libertad's coach running off, going against things that, he's not he's not on with like where they made him play, where they made his team play against Tacuary. They took him to River Plate Stadium, and we're not talking about River Plate from Argentina. We're talking about River Plate from Paraguay, which is in third division right now. So you can think, like, I don't know, you were just saying, you were just mentioning the Premier League. I was just thinking, what if you took Pep Guardiola's team, Manchester City, to like a third or fourth division field? I'm pretty sure Pep wouldn't like that either, right? So that was kind of Libertad's coach running off after facing Tacuary. And and then they look like themselves again in the game against the Nacional. So you can see that this team doesn't want to let go of the fight. They look like they're still that championship team that they want, that they're still built, and they got the young blood, especially because that's what they showed, I believe, in that game against Nacional. I'm really happy to see Ruben Lescano. I'm really happy to see Rodrigo Villalba coming back. These are kids that have can bring up a spark, just like Julian Ciso did a couple years ago when he was starting off, just like Diego Gomez. And these are players that weren't playing these important games in Libertadores as Libertad's season was ending in that tournament. So I don't know what you guys are thinking, but as of right now, you know, the team that's been winning everything doesn't look like it's so secure right now that they can take that first spot right now, Rafa. I like Cerro Porteño more the way they're playing. They're the team that's pretty much a show, and it's actually pretty to watch, even their football.
Yeah, I think Cerro definitely in the driving seat, because as Roberto was mentioning, it's the way this is decided if they equal on points is the head-to-head record. And because Cerro won that game 3-1 against Libertad earlier in the season, they're good. They don't need to worry about goal difference or goals scored. As long as they win these last three games, they're champions. So it's all in their hands. The difficult thing for Cerro, I think, is what's coming up, right? So they're going to Tacuary. Well, I say going to Tacuary took Libertad to that third division pitch that Fede mentioned, but they're actually taking Cerro to Ciudad del Este. So they're going to go to Ciudad del Este this weekend. But they know they've got to come back because they're playing in Asuncion, the huge game against Colo Colo. So they've got that travel. And then straight after Colo Colo, whatever happens, you know, disappointment or the high of going through, then they've got Sportivo Luqueño, who Luqueño is still playing quite well this season, and they're playing at home, and Cerro haven't been as good at home as away, which is surprising, right? They're unbeaten away, 6 wins, 3 draws, but they've lost 2 at home. So there's so much in this like week of what's coming up with Cerro, with so much going on, that although they're in the driving seat, it's a lot of pressure. We have Libertad on the other side that have some of that pressure taken off because we know they're not going to go through in the next round of Libertadores. So the games, it's got a different kind of flavor, I suppose, the midweek game, the international game. And as Fede was saying, these young players, this time of season is when you want the young players to be there. They haven't been involved as much, so maybe they're still a bit fresh. They always have that hope of, can I move? Can I go abroad? So they have that extra incentive, not just the league title. And we're starting to see some of them click, because that was a really good performance, the 5-0 against Nacional. So although it's technically it's in Cerro's hands, because if they win all 3, they're champion. You have that there. And then the reason Olimpia are still kind of sniffing around is because, yeah, Olimpia know they have Libertad on the final day, but they also have seen that these two teams are not unstoppable. It's not the same as Man City, Liverpool in the sense, Man City, Arsenal, sorry, in the sense of that these guys just keep winning. You know, you always think, well, maybe they could slip up. So that's why Olimpia is still there thinking, we haven't played very well this year, but we might have a chance to find ourselves in the league title. And I think there's still technically a way, it could be a 3-way tie, and that if that happens, then I think we get into some crazy stuff, and there could be like playoffs and things. But at the moment, I still feel Cerro have been the best team. I think Cecilio Dominguez has come into form at the right time. He looked really good those first 2 games. Then he got dengue. Then he looked like he was out of shape. He didn't look as good, and now he's really coming in when it matters. And they're supported by Aguayo, who's been this like revelation. And Aguayo's just playing so well. Like the last game against Guarani, he was up against Cantero, another young player. And Cantero has been probably one of the best left backs in the league. He just seems so confident and so kind of composed. But even he was having a tough time against Aguayo because this kid is doing so well. So it's exciting. I don't know if I was meant to do a prediction, but I'm not going to do one.
No, I think we're still kind of early in this, honestly, Ralph and Fede, because I feel like, even whatever we said, we stuck to our predictions even at the beginning of the season, and thankfully we're still technically on course for one of us to be right. So yeah, I mean, look, I think it's still gonna go all to the way to the end. I mean, like you had mentioned, if it goes to that final playoff spot, like the three-way tie, Fede, that's just gonna open a big can of worms, and I don't know. I feel like if you're Olympia, maybe you feel a bit confident in a way.
That's my team this season, guys. That was my pick at the beginning of the season. I thought it was going to be Chiqui Arce building up a team, but oh my God, have this team had troubles right along the way. I mean, so many injuries. They still have many players out of this squad. I was just seeing that their captain Richard Ortiz is starting to come back. He actually had a couple of minutes in the reserve. He might end up playing a couple of these last games that are very important for his team, and you never know what you're going to get from Martin Palermo. Even though the strategy he's used these last couple of games has actually worked out. I mean, Derlis Gonzalez being a sub, coming in, making a difference. He is the best player he has in the squad, but he has not looked like himself ever since the injury. So now you have a player that's making the difference with teams that are kind of tired, with defense that have problems in those last minutes against a big team like Olympia, and they're kind of taking that advantage in the games. I mean, it worked for them again against Luqueño those last 10 minutes, even though it was Fernando Roman getting a beautiful free kick and Luqueño breaking off that defense, right? I mean, that was kind of crazy to see. I thought it was going to be a 0-0 draw. I thought neither team was doing enough to deserve it. But it was Olympia that showed that gut, that showed that will to fight it till the end, just like they've shown so many times. And with Facundo Beretta also, they're the top scorer coming in. He's always a sub. He's barely played like a starter this season, but he's still the top scorer of this team. So you're seeing this really weird numbers from Olympia, the way their games even end up solving out. But just like Ralph was mentioning, they got that showdown against Libertad in the last game, and I don't believe they're thinking anymore about Cerro Porteño, Libertad. They're thinking about themselves. They're thinking about ending it the best way possible. Palermo, with these couple of wins, he might even hold on to his job, because there was a lot of people saying, no, we need another coach. Palermo is not doing enough with this team. They don't look good in the first half, but then they end up fixing it in the second half. So they're making it happen, Roberto. I'm sticking with my pick, even though it would be kind of a miracle right now because they are far back, but you never know what could happen in the end. It's been a really crazy, and I would even say very bad played by most of the teams in this Apertura. We have not had the best football, but anything can happen still.
Ralph, are you sticking with your guns as well?
Who did I say? Libertad?
You did. You did. I
Yeah,
said
yeah.
Libertad as well.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think with all Libertad's problems, right? Yeah, they still are right up there. I don't want to switch at this last stage and kind of try and jump ship, right? It's yeah, it was like I was saying, I think this week for Cerro is going to be so key, and then for Libertad, you could see them winning the two games they have now, and it comes down to a bit of the showdown with Olympia. And like Fede was just talking about Olympia, it's such a strange setup from Palermo that he doesn't play Bruera regularly, and he's his top scorer. He refuses to start Arrua, and they're always much better when Carlos Arrua is on the team. I mean, they score these late goals, but it's also because Arrua has come on as a sub, and he refuses to start them. And so it's very interesting that I wonder when it comes down to this last game against Libertad, does he think, should I just play my best team, or will he keep almost gambling? Is very much he's a bit of a gambler, right? He's like, no, I think I'm going to wait to the second half and try and change things, and I'm going to be the difference maker. So I mean, I think that's Palermo's a mark of a very confident person, right? That we know from his playing career. I think he really trusts that he can wait until 60 minutes, 70 minutes and throw in players instead of like feeling forced to start them. And so maybe that could do something at the end. But otherwise, I still feel Libertad they should win these two games. Whereas I think Cerro now going to Ciudad del Este, having to play a Luqueño that we just talked about, almost held out against Olimpia. It's still tough. It's definitely, although Cerro in the driving seat, it's not a given they can win all three games.
Absolutely. I think it's going to go right to the wire, and I think obviously there's going to be some more surprises and twists to this tale. So I'm looking forward to it as we switch gears now to what's going on in the continental stage, because obviously we still have teams playing in the Copa Libertadores and the Sudamericana. We'll go to the one that's a bit more simple to discuss because I feel like the Cedro one is the one to really go in depth. So let's go first to what's going on in the other stage of Libertadores. So Libertad currently are in third place. They are out of the Libertadores, so they cannot qualify for the round of 16, meaning that River Plate and Nacional are in it. But they are still in the position to qualify for the Sudamericana. They take on Nacional at Tujucua next in a couple of days. The River Plate have to host Deportivo Táchira, who are still technically in this race. But I mean, guys, let's be real. I mean, all respect to Táchira, they really performed as best as they can. But 5 games, no wins, 1 draw, 4 losses. The Libertad haven't been pretty, but surely they'll have enough in the tank, even if they were to lose this game against Nacional to qualify for the Copa Sudamericana. I mean, do we have any objections? Is that the way it's going to be? Unless someone wants to do a hot take and say no, they're out of it. Anyone?
No, they've always struggled in Venezuela, but at home they really should be winning against Táchira, and I think everything would suggest that for Libertad.
I don't expect any surprises either, Roberto. No. I think the obvious is going to happen in this group. Libertad lost their opportunities with different games. They didn't lose their chance to qualify in the Libertadores in this last game.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they kind of missed it out, but let's see what they do in the Sudamericana. Maybe this loss, if they were to lose the Apertura, I think that can help motivate them a bit more heading into, first of all, the Clausura and also what's coming up with the Sudamericana. As well as the Sudamericana, we'll talk about the other team that's also technically still in contention to qualify to either the round of 16 or the knockout round playoffs, and that's Sportivo Emiliano. So right now, Paranaense are in the top spot with 12 points. Right below them in second place is Emiliano with 10. Right below them is Danubio with 7 points in third place. And then obviously Rayo Zuliano with 0 points in last place. Emiliano have to travel to Curitiba. They have to take on Paranaense, where they know if they win that game, they're off to the round of 16. Whereas, Danubio, they have to do something against Zuliano. But in this case for Emiliano, they kind of have to go into that result and hope that if they were to lose, that they don't get into goal difference. And yeah, I think that's the one that everyone is trying to look at as well, because they're technically headed by the head-to-head, so that helps them as well. But Fede, I think for Emiliano's case, they need to get a result somehow, or at worst, not hope for a big loss against Paranaense in Brazil.
Yeah, because they're not probably going to get a hand from Zuliano, right? That's been kind of a really weak team in this group. So, yeah, they got to think about what they can do against Paranaense and try to get a draw maybe, or go for the historic result and get a win. Why not? I'm really hoping for a huge game from these guys. They have not had it easy in the local league either. They've had a lot of problems in the locker room. And, yeah, this team looks kind of tired because they've had to travel a lot and they don't have that depth in the squad. But I just hope they can do it because it would be really big. It would be huge for them, not only for the money, but for the history of the club. And you kind of want to see these fairy tales also. At least I do in the Conmebol Sudamericana. These small teams that a lot of people don't know, and they still get through. So I'm rooting for Emiliano. I hope they do it somehow. Maybe a golazo from Piri Contreras, who has been probably one of their best players. I don't know. Somebody can stand out in this game. I'm hoping that they do, and I'm hoping that Emiliano comes back with the qualify and looking ahead in this competition. Ralph, can they do it? What do you think?
Well, a draw suits both them and Paranaense, right? Because Paranaense would stay top and they would stay second. And while I don't think there would be any agreement for a draw, if they get to about 60 minutes and nothing's happening and both teams are thinking, well, we're both through anyway with a 0-0. You could see like a very boring last 30 minutes as really they just kind of see it out. But the question will be, can Emiliano really do something in that first hour for Paranaense to think, this is better than me trying to go out and win the game. So if Paranaense go out looking to win and then Emiliano doing things on the counter attack, that might then say, okay, well, let's not risk our first spot, because of course if Paranaense were to lose, then they risk that first spot. It's easier for them in a way just to play out for a draw. So that could be what ends up helping Emiliano, right? That they have this, they have the bigger team, let's say, doesn't need to go all out to win. It's still a really tough ask though. Going to Brazil, so difficult. It's a bigger test, I think, than what they've been doing so far. Their games have been in Venezuela and Uruguay, so it's going to be really tough. I'm fingers crossed they can do something, because they've surprised me this whole season. So, and also if anybody's good at holding out for a draw, it's Sarabia, right? So he's a very good defensive coach like that.
Yeah, I feel like it could be done, but they need to get it from the get-go. Gun to my head, I don't think they do it. I just think that for some reason Anubi is going to have enough to beat them, and they'll have the goal difference. And I think Almeriano won't have enough to get the result against Finance. I don't see it. I would be very shy. If they do it, then great. I mean, if they're able to qualify, be it in the round of 16 or in the knockout round playoffs, that's good for them. But I personally just don't see it. So that's just my personal opinion. But of course, I think everyone's opinion is going to be on the big game for the Paraguayan team in the Copa Libertadores, in the continental stage. Really, kind of the big hope is Cerro Porteño. Cerro Porteño, as we know, are still in the race to get out of what was going to be a tough group to begin with Fluminense, Colo-Colo, and Alianza Lima. At the time of recording, Fluminense are top of the group with 11 points. Right below them is Cerro Porteño with 5, but they are equal with Colo-Colo. And the one thing that only separates them would be the CONMEBOL ranking, which is obviously Cerro Porteño are in 19th and Colo-Colo are in 26th. Obviously, all will depend on what happens in the final game against Colo-Colo in La Nueva Olla, which Cerro know that they need to get a win. And if they don't, then that kind of overcomplicates it. And I'm going to go to Ralph on this one, because he's certainly the one that likes those kind of like scenarios at the minute. But yeah, I mean, this is a big week for Cerro in terms of how they do in the league. Obviously, they have to go to Ciudad del Este to take on Tacuarembó. Then they have to go and travel back to Asunción to play this game that kind of is going to decide their entire season as a whole. So yeah, I wonder how Manolo must be feeling of having to deal with these two scenarios, which credit to them. They're continuing to win. They're doing what they're doing well, but they have to do it now when it matters. And this goes on both fronts of being able to be competitive in the league and now in the Copa Libertadores, because I don't see Alianza getting the result against Fluminense. I just don't. Even if Fluminense are already qualified, I just feel like they're way stronger than Alianza Lima are at the minute. So maybe they're hoping for a miracle, but for Cerro, they need to win. I think that's as best as we can go in kind of a straightforward scenario, you would say, for Cerro.
Yeah, and what we've seen so far in the Libertadores from Manolo is slightly different to the league. He's been much more defensive, right? So they have 3 goals in 5 games. They've only won 1 game. It's been a slightly different setup, and now he's in this position where probably is better to really go for it, right? And really go out and try and put the game away early. I think what he doesn't want is for this game to be sort of 0-0 after 30 minutes and Cerro haven't created much, and then the crowd start getting on the back and get concerned. And I think what we don't want to see is like this kind of ugly game, which is pretty much what Cerro have thrown up in the Libertadores. It's been just because he's often played with the 2 central midfielders being much more defensive. At the moment now, I think we're getting like Perez is proving himself to be the best central midfielder for Cerro at the moment, so he should be in there. And then you don't want to put Morel there. I think you want to put someone a bit more forward thinking. So whether he goes outright with a Carrizo supporting, or he just goes with someone like Wilder Vieira, which we've seen before, or Peralta, that remains to be seen. But I think that has been the key difference from the league and the Copa Libertadores, is how he sets up in the midfield. Then, of course, he's going to have some questions. Does he start Aguayo? He hasn't wanted to do that in Libertadores. We've just talked about how good this kid is, but usually in the Libertadores, he's wanted to go with Iturbe and Dominguez. But then one of Iturbe or Dominguez is going to be playing at least 70, 80 minutes probably in Ciudad del Este. So does he want to then rest one of those? And so there's a few question marks going on, I think, at the moment for him. And then what to do up front, right? Churin he's making history, as I think Fede alluded to. Is he the top scorer? Yeah, he's the top scorer in La Nueva Olla, and he's very close to being, I think, the top scorer in La Olla, like both stadiums. I think he's only like one goal behind now or something. So that would be a very kind of romantic moment that he gets the goal, makes history, puts them through, which he's done before in Libertadores. I remember against Barcelona one season with that late goal. So there's definitely a few question marks about what Manolo has to do. What I want to see is they're a bit more forward thinking and a bit more attacking.
Yeah, it's been a different situation for Cerro totally in the Libertadores. I mean, they've actually had trouble with their left back and the right back in different games. I mean, one time around it was Santiago de Samendia. One time it was Enzo Jimenez, who left the team after that Colo Colo game in Santiago, never came back with the squad. And last game around, it was Alan Benitez having problems and looking like the bad one in the defense. So I don't know if the game's gonna come down to that, because Colo Colo is gonna have to go forward also eventually in this game. I don't know if they're gonna do it right away, because I think they're gonna respect Cerro and that whole atmosphere that's gonna be created in La Nueva Olla because of the huge game and the game of the season. That's how it's building up. Everything's absolutely gonna be sold out, and people are gonna be full there, chanting for their team, and Colo Colo is going to feel that, just like Cerro is going to feel it. Like Ralph was saying, they got to do something right away in this game, and hopefully they can do that. Because if the game gets a bit long for Cerro, it could look kind of bad. And I don't know how the players are going to deal with that situation, because everything has looked so good lately for Cerro. They have not needed those last minute drama, to get the wins. So I'm hoping that they have the best game that they can play, because they look like a team that can have those kind of games. They've stomped on the small teams this season. They did it against General Caballero. They did it against Sol the other day. I mean, I'm hoping that they can be the better team on the pitch, just because I think they are a better team than Colo Colo, and Colo Colo is going to be missing one of their leaders, Arturo Vidal, in the midfield in a huge game like this one. I mean, they're gonna feel it, I believe, also. So I think Cerro is gonna need to show to themselves, to South America, and to their crowd, especially after having a very good couple of months under Manolo Jimenez, that they're ready for the next level. And the next level is to qualify in the Libertadores. They're already thinking ahead. Manolo's even thinking the preseason. I was telling you guys, he's already planning on taking Cerro Porteño back to his home country to do the preseason there and play a couple of games, even against Spanish teams, Spanish teams. So it's going to be wonderful to see that preseason happening. I mean, we don't usually get that from Paraguayan teams going abroad, or even less going to Europe, but this is the game for them. This is what everybody's been waiting for. And I just hope Cerro can do it, because lately they have not been able to, Roberto.
No, they haven't. And I think certainly for what has been kind of a inconsistent roller coaster season for Cedro, they kind of need this as well. Like morale, this is a supporters group that is always demanding, always have been through a lot of obviously um surprises and upsets and just despair at times as well. Sadness, basically. That's the word I'm looking at, but sadness. So yeah, no, they definitely need this, but I'm gonna put the pressure on you guys now, as much as Manolo is right on pressure. Fede, what do you say? Do you think Cerro Porteño do it and advance to the round of 16? Or do you feel as if though they're off to the Sudamericana, or they're out of it?
After the whole speech that I gave, unfortunately, I think that it's going to be a really bad night for Cerro Porteño. And I see them totally out of the competition, not even Sudamericana, to be honest with you
Ooh.
guys. I don't know. I've seen Alianza Lima do really nice things in this competition. I think Colo Colo is gonna be a rock in the shoe the whole game, and they're gonna wait for their chance, and I think they might even take it away. And Cerro under pressure. Raf has been mentioning the whole campaign with under Manolo. He should have gone in other games and try to get the results in other places, and he didn't do that. He was way too defensive, and I think he needs to learn from his mistake with a huge elimination this upcoming week. But that's what I think. I don't know. Hopefully, it doesn't happen. I want to see it happen for Cerro Porteño, but it has not gone that way usually for them, Ralph.
I think I mentioned it in the last show, and I feel this could happen again, is when Cerro qualified against Independiente Santa Fe. They're in a similar position, I think. Colo Colo are missing Vidal, of course. That was huge. Vidal got himself sent off for a second yellow card. I think it was in like the 94th minute. Really, really dumb from such an experienced professional. But that's a bit of a boost for Cerro. But I also can see maybe that indiscipline. They had 2 red cards in the game. That could slip in here, because we've seen that when in these big games, like sometimes indiscipline creeps in, and I think that could help Cerro. I feel they're going to scrape through. I think I want Manolo to play that more attacking football that we've seen in the league. I don't think we'll see it, but I think we'll see Cerro just scrape through into that second place and be in Libertadores.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're gonna have to find it in some way, be it like the last minute goal against Alianza, but they're gonna do it. I don't trust Alianza to do it against Fluminense. I really don't. But I just see them scraping through, and that would be a big morale boost for them. I think they'll be able to win on the weekend as well. I think they're gonna definitely do it against Tacuarembó, and that will help them moving forward into. We'll see how they do in the race, because obviously it's still open for everyone, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this all pans out, you would say, in such a dramatic way. I'm excited to speak about it. I'm sure you boys are also excited to speak about it as we go into that and close out another great episode of Guarani Vision. For myself, Roberto Rojas, Fede Perez, and Ralph Hanna, thank you so much for listening in. See you soon.